My first question for you, Brian, is why is buying AI fundamentally different from the software purchases we've had in the past? And why do you think leaders fail when they treat AI just like another tool in the stack?
Well, that's a great question. It's because AI isn't a single user tool. So when you think about it, it's a organization-wide investment, and it focuses and touches so many different components of the business, the workflows, the staffing, coaching, and the customer experience. And I'm hearing the exact same things as I talk to people, particularly in the financial services market. I hear a lot of folks coming up and saying that they've been advised to find an AI project. They're looking for, but they're not allowing the question of, and we'll get to this later, what we want to define first. What are the business objectives? And instead, what I'm hearing is let's get into AI and let's figure out how to do it. So there's a ton of interest, but there's not a lot of knowledge around how to actually go about uh, purchasing, finding, and then implementing the new AI software. So where I see people fail a lot is when they're treating it like all of the previous implementations they've done instead of more thinking about it strategically as this is a shift in the way that we are going, strategic shift in the way that we're going to implement, the way that we're going to run our business, and then the way that we're going to drive value out of this as well. There's so many options, and we will get into this a little bit later today, I hope. The other component is just taking it simple. This is back to basics, but you can think of it simply as back to basics from an implementation perspective as well. And we always talk about crawl, walk, run. Um, there's ways that you can get into it very low risk for financial services companies. You don't need to jump right into automation. You can start with a conversational intelligence and get right into building leadership confidence, getting confidence with the transcripts, driving insights, and then making sure that you have buy-in at the highest levels before you move in to some of the more advanced steps. And then I guess the last component that we'll touch on is just that investment curve specifically, since we are here to focus on ROI and in the decision. It's a lot of people, I hear this as well, in the first 2 to 3 months where we're gonna start seeing our payback. We're gonna start driving ROI. And the reality of it is that's not how this works. Um, we've talked about is that's your investment period. That investment period can span 6 months or more, depending on your specific businesses. And really, what we're doing here today is trying to get into the details on how do you build that ROI, how do you set those expectations, and then how do you make sure that everyone is aligned and on the same page as you move forward, so you have a successful outcome for your project. And one of the examples, and we talked about this, is just about like AHT is such an easy one to pick on for contact centers. But you do hear this a lot. Like, so if we buy this, we're going to see a giant reduction in AHT, in 3 months or 6 months. And many times the answer is no. We can talk about some scenarios where it may go up and that would be beneficial to you, which is counterproductive. But the you've got to think about the lead up for this as your investment period. That's very important in making sure you set those expectations and you can define the curve on where you'll start seeing these benefits. And there are significant benefits.